يا أمس داير جنة الفارس الخير منه. الزور المبتعرفة فوق النار تلزا.
Julie and the excavation team continue the battle against heat and sandstorms, hoping to unlock more of the mystery of the Amun temple. The removal of another 3 feet of fill reveals more of the sandstone columns and a now familiar figure. The Nile god the ancient Nubians called Happy. The water bearer is making multiple appearances in the inner courtyard.
On this column we have 8 figures of Happy, and on all of the other columns we have 8 figures. So by the time we're done, we're going to have drawn 32 Happy figures. Happy is the god of the Nile, and he's carrying jars that are pouring water. He brings the fertility of the Nile to the people who live along its banks. That's why Happy's so important to the people who lived here. Without the Nile and the river and the water, they'd die.
Water was so important to the ancient Nubians that it played a central role in the daily life of this temple.
The priests would have offered libations to the gods. Particularly here it would have been the god Amun. So this would involve pouring water or possibly milk on the altar and giving it to the god.
The priests of Amun would have carried out this ritual in the most sacred part of the temple, the innermost sanctuary.
Normally only the priests would have entered this room. It's the main sanctuary, the Holy of Holies.
Julie and Salah have been waiting to excavate this sacred chamber. They expect to find an altar or statue here, something to correlate with the ancient rituals they know took place deep inside the temple.
These are huge blocks. You can see they're larger than my hand in thickness. They held something really, really heavy here. It could be an altar, it could be a statue.
This is where the priests would have made their offerings to Amun. But where the altar should stand, there is now disturbing evidence of desecration.
Well, it looks like somebody dug a huge hole in the floor of the main sanctuary of the temple.
The sacred shrine is missing.
Either they took it with them or they pushed it over and took it somewhere else and maybe smashed it. So in terms of committing sacrilege, this is a terrible, terrible offense.
With evidence of foul play mounting, the fire discovered earlier in the forecourt is beginning to look like no accident. The identity of the marauders is a mystery, but what they did with the altar soon becomes perfectly clear when Julie re-examines a heap of stone fragments excavated earlier in the season.
This is the top corner of an altar. It's also quite heavy, so it took a lot of muscle to break this piece into the numerous pieces that you see here.
Luckily, though the altar was destroyed, a crucial piece remains intact.
We turned up this piece.
It's the missing part of the cartouche Julie and Salah have been searching for. Now they can decipher the name of the ruler who built this temple, and is not a king.
The royal name is Meroitic, and that's one of the names of Queen Amunitori.
The temple is no longer anonymous. Now it has a ruler and an age. Amunitori is another powerful Nubian queen who ruled during the 1st century AD. Queen Amunitori and her co-regent King Natakamani reigned over Nubia during the time of Christ. Together, this powerful couple honored the gods by building more temples than almost any other Nubian rulers. The complex at the site of Naga, 125 miles to the south, is an impressive testament to their devotion. An avenue of ram statues leading up to the temple pays homage to Amun and hints at what the sands of Dangeil may still be hiding. Like all Nubian rulers, King Natakamani and Queen Amanatore would have been officially crowned first at Jebel Barkal. From there, they would have visited many of the most important temples in their kingdom, like Dangeil, to be crowned ceremonially by Amun.
Amanatore and Natakamani approached the temple, Dangeil, by boat, sailing up the Nile. And then they would have headed towards the main sanctuary.
The Amun temple complex would have appeared like a mirage on the horizon.
And then as you approached the temple, there would have been two massive doors blocking your entrance, hiding the secrets inside.
Led by the high priests, Queen Amanatore and King Natakamani would enter the temple, followed by their courtiers, and proceed to the inner sanctuary.
They would lift incense up, so the place would be smoky and smelling of frankincense. They would have made offerings to the god Amun. And then the priests of Amun, speaking for the god Amun, would have indicated who the successor, who the next king was going to be. And then the crowning would take place. The king is officially crowned by Amun. So presumably that would be by his representative, the high priest of Amun.
Though access to the inner sanctuaries was restricted to priests and royalty, other parts of the temple were open to pilgrims from more humble backgrounds.
We found a footprint inscribed in the paving stones of the first court. It's graffiti that's been left by a pilgrim who came to visit the temple. This would show the god and other pilgrims that this person had come to visit the temple. It's a very human thing. It's something that somebody actually came and did as an act of personal piety, as an act of faith. It's very easy to get stuck in the material and the columns and the paving stones. This is a nice reminder, because as an archaeologist it shows us that people actually visited the temple and they actually worshipped here, and it was part of their everyday life.
Families may have looked for solace in the temple, praying for the sick, mourning the dead. Others may have come to thank the gods for a new birth or a bountiful harvest. Those who wished to enter the temple complex passed first through a towering pylon gateway. Halfway down a paved avenue lined with rams, they would have enjoyed a brief respite from the sun beneath a shady kiosk. Ahead lay the great wooden doors of the temple. 2,000 years have passed, and inside the main sanctuary, a painted plaster wall has fallen to the ground.